Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 182. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend out there. We have a lot to cover today since we are officially in eclipse season and we have that very powerful solar eclipse right around the corner. So we're not going to waste any time, jump straight into things. And if you are new here to the Wolf Pack, welcome. So great to have you here with us. If you have yet to get access to our Discord server, please make sure you send me a direct message here on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon direct message with your Discord server invite. Please do not comment below or email me regarding Discord access. I won't be able to help you that way. Please follow those instructions. Also, regarding our altcoin voting system, please for next week, if you guys could do me a favor, before submitting the name of the crypto and the ticker symbol, just go ahead and use the search function to make sure that I have yet to cover this project, at least for the past 3 months, because we're getting some projects that are being submitted that I've even covered last month. I mean, most of the top votes this week were projects that I covered within the past 40 days. So there's very little new data. I can't really work with that. And also I'm just repeating the same analysis. So to keep things fresh and, interesting around here, let's try to give it at least 90 to 100 days before covering a project again. And also I have that What I'm Investing in special. And during that What I'm Investing in special, I go over a couple of those projects that you guys are voting on. So there's no need to vote on those moving forward. What we could do, just so everything is nice and a fresh, clean start, go ahead and look at the last What I'm Investing in special, which I believe was Red Pill 177. You can just copy and paste that list of projects, save it somewhere in a note on your computer or on your phone if you'd like. And those are projects I'm going to kind of just cover every couple months. So there's no need to vote on those. For instance, Avalanche was one of them that I saw, IOTA, a couple of them. But just wanted to get that out of the way because I want the voting system to be fun, new, fresh, and interesting for everyone. I appreciate you following that, and using the search function is a game changer here, especially as it's been almost 4 years of doing this WatersAbove project, and you could only imagine how many projects I've covered. So learn how to use the search function both in Patreon and in Discord. It will definitely be useful. So let's get into today's podcast. Welcome to the autumn equinox as of today. So definitely a shift in energy that we're getting right now. We're also in eclipse season. And unfortunately, lately we've had this Lebanon situation escalate rapidly during the 38th week of the year. And it's something I've been warning about for some time now, not only just the 38th week of the year, but regarding Lebanon. And here we are, and it's really sad to see what's happening. But we have to get into the decode, stay neutral, and do what we do here. So we had this 38th week of the year, the number 38, esoterically, it's tied to our key number of 24, because 38 is 3 eighths, 888 is 24. So we've talked about this a lot, but if you're new here, we're looking at numbers in an interesting way, and it's been able to help us uncover the reason why things happen at certain times and gives you a little bit of a different take on traditional numerology. So getting into this, I mentioned something in the last couple of Red Pills actually regarding specifically September 18th. And we had that Trump event happen. So because that cleared out, and because a couple weeks before that, we had the day he was supposed to be served and, all of that drama, that got pushed till after the election. So I believe it was the New York Police Department basically stepped down and said that they would strike that day and not arrest Donald Trump. And I suppose, the apex predator just goes with the flow of what they're capable of, doing until the people push back. And it's just a sign of that's the way it all went down. Whether you believe it or don't, doesn't matter. That's the way things turned out. So the September 18th thing was no longer really focused on Trump, since again, we no longer had that exoteric event happening. And we also Just had an event with him on the exact date that I mentioned, the war code of September 15th, which I talked about in my recent YouTube video, so go check that out. But anyways, the date of September 18th still stood as a significant date, and this was a big event that occurred in Lebanon, kind of what tipped this into being full-blown war mode. And when we look at the dates here, we have the 18th tied to the 10th, the 7th of October. And this was last year. Excuse me one second. Okay. So we had October 7, 2023, the day that Israel officially kicked off this war, and this amount of dates in between is 11 months and 11 days. You've probably heard me talk about this already. That's your 1111 code. And yesterday's event, which was some of the craziest bombing footage I've ever seen in Lebanon, like seriously, it's crazy. You had the 21st tied to October 7th, and this is powerful because it's 50 weeks. And this number 50 is tied to the Jubilee, because 7 cycles of 7 is 49, 49 is 7 squared, and Jubilee is practiced the following year, the 50th year. Just like how right after the end of this recent Jubilee, which again comes around every 50 years, we had the October 7th event in 2023 that we're talking about right now and that we're connecting this to. So we had 50 years after the Yom Kippur War, you're out of Jubilee, boom, start an event. Then 50 weeks after you have the October 7th event, you have what's happening right now in Lebanon. I mean, this is getting really ridiculous. This is seriously tragic what this is turning into, and it's unfortunate to even get into this right now, but I don't think this will end anytime soon. This is World War III. So far, this eclipse season is no joke, and we still have 3 more weeks, with the main eclipse being on October 2nd. And please know that I'm being neutral about this, but I personally think that all the things going on with this war are only going to be more bullish, especially for things like cryptocurrency and gold and precious metals. It sucks to say, but it's just the way it is. So I think that we need to keep our just posture neutral right now, because there's going to be a lot of sadness, a lot of loss, as there is during times like this. The year of the dragon into the year of the snake is not a game. And if you've been following along in my work, you'll know that we've been putting a lot of emphasis around this time frame, because everything is about energy balance. So whilst some people are prosperous and abundant, it's taking from other people. And it's not like it has to always be looked at in a negative way. In some cases, those who are enlightened, those who are illumined, are prepared before this stuff happens, right? And I would hope that that's the conversation we're having here in this community. I know for myself that I worked very, very hard to learn all of these nuances of the code and to invest according to that knowledge and wisdom to put myself in a position where I can make decisions with where I am physically. I could change my geographical location to be in safer places. And this is all part of my journey over the last 10 years. I've been learning more and more about all of this and applying it so it has utility and it's not just thoughts in my mind. So I hope this inspires people to see that, preparation is important in all of this. So we're seeing what's happening with gold. We're seeing what's happening with the hyperinflation. We're seeing what's happening with the markets in general. And it's gonna just be more and more distractions over this next 3 to 4 months. And when I say distractions, I'm not talking about what's going on in Lebanon right now or what's going on with Israel. That's a very real thing. What I mean by distractions is stuff like politics, like what's going on with the election or selection, I should call it. Please don't get offended about all this, but I need to share these thoughts, especially in these long form podcasts. This is not scripted. I'm just telling you how I feel. I believe we need to be neutral as a community during a time like this because, again, of what's going on in the world stage with very real situations where life is being lost. And simultaneously, there's like a memery going on with all the other things, like with what's happening with Diddy and what's happening with Trump and Yeah, it's gonna could just ramp up more and more, guys, and I think it's important you just protect your prana right now. If you're feeling uneasy, you have this community. Feel free to reach out, share where you're at with things, be vulnerable. That's what we're here for. So, getting back to this, we know this eclipse season is no joke. We still have 3 more weeks. The main eclipse being October 2nd, just a little over a week from now, which I'll be dedicating next week's red pill to, since that red pill will be on September 29th, just a couple days before that eclipse on the following Tuesday. And pretty much right there into your monthly close, which is great. Perfect timing. I get to cover the monthly close. I get to cover this upcoming eclipse season. And today we'll be talking a little bit about the month of October in general, just as we get closer and closer to there. Now, one bit of code that I found that could potentially be important for this upcoming week has to do with the recent Chinese New Year, which was on the 10th of February, which I believe even kind of connected to today if I was looking accurately. Yeah, yesterday, the 224, and I talked about this in a podcast, didn't I? I forgot which one, maybe the last one, but I talked about Chinese New Year connecting to this, to yesterday by 224 days. This is the 224 year we're in. Anyways, getting back to what I wanted to share with you all, it has to do with September 23rd, this following Monday, tomorrow, okay? And we're connecting it to Chinese New Year, the start of the year of the dragon. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because 227 is the 49th prime number. And you've probably been hearing me talk about this number all year, 49. I just talked about it a moment ago, talking about Jubilee, how 49 is 7 sevens. And then on the 50th year, you have Jubilee. We just showed it with the connection to what's going on in Lebanon right now. But with this connection into the upcoming week, we have these two dates, 49 prime, hidden within the 227 code. And I want you to remember that the day after this, we had the 49ers playing in a rematch Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the moment the 49ers lost that Super Bowl, Bitcoin immediately traded to 49K, leading into Satoshi's 49th birthday, which was tied to the Great American Eclipse. Again, following the date was 4/9, April 9th, exoterically in the Gregorian system. That's a lot of 49s. But anyways, getting back to this year of the dragon connection, tomorrow will be the 22 standard date numerology, and that also ties back to dragon 22 right there in the code. And this was talking about Chinese New Year, year of the dragon. And this is also the day leaving 99 days left in the year. And this current year we're in was packed with Jupiter symbolism, such as the logo of the recent Summer Olympics in Paris. It's something that I covered thoroughly in my Year of the Dragon Decoded, so check that out if you haven't already. It's available here on Patreon. Again, great use of the search function here because you'll be able to find that decode. And that 99 that we're getting right here, 99 days left in the year, ties to Jupiter. 99 in the code. Also, yeah, I was just thinking about that. 2772 in my crypto decoding blueprint, I talk about how Bitcoin is Jupiter. But yeah, that's a side note. Let's get back to this. So we have this 99 connection. Jupiter could be significant. And so here I'll share what I'm thinking, just to get my opinion out there. What I'm thinking is, if we check back in on the Bitcoin chart to right over here. Actually, I want to leave this chart clean because I like the setup. Let's go over here. I like this chart too. So here we are, February 11th, all right? Remember, the daily close for Bitcoin comes in around 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, not midnight. So when we had the end of the Super Bowl, we were already in the February 12th candle, so it's not really fair. But I promise you, right after the 49ers lost that Super Bowl, Bitcoin immediately hit 49K and started breaking out into the next leg up. So we're checking back into this time frame right here. And this was the day of Super Bowl 58. That was in the midst of this breakout. we were just recovering back to the prior month highs in January, which was around the same exact time of the month. You see, January 11th, and we're talking about February 11th. And if we look at where we're at today, we're effectively approaching the prior month's highs back in August. And we're pretty much at the same time of month as well, So let's see how tomorrow opens. Let's see how we finish off the month. But it would be pretty fascinating if we were to have an exact repeat of that. And it could be tied to this code that we're talking about with Monday into Tuesday. Now we have 227 days. Again, 49th prime number. After the 49ers lose the Super Bowl and Bitcoin trades to 49K. It's making me feel like, oh, is this when we're resetting just like we were back here? And remember, at this moment over here, we already had the Bitcoin ETF approvals followed by a big dump that followed, kind of like a bear trap. And then this led to the setup into our current all-time high. Also, funny enough, the all-time high that we have is on the exact date which next year would be the start of our lunar cycle. So it's incredibly synchronized. But anywho, we have this 49 connection hidden in there, and I think that's important to consider. So this Monday and Tuesday, perhaps this is like the pivot energy to get us to start to recover based on this 49 energy, which kind of flatlined right around the Great American Eclipse, which was into the 4-9 date. You could see the highs that we were getting there. We could not break out higher, and here we are like 6 months later, It's a pretty big deal. So I think there's something to this. Now, let's get a little deeper into the code. We have the 25th. It leaves 97 days in the year. This 97 is your 25th prime number. Another number tied to Bitcoin with the ticker symbol BTC, giving you 25. And another thing, if you type in Bitcoin and its ticker symbol together, you're going to get 97. And we're talking about 97 days left in the year on September 25th. Also, since we mentioned Satoshi and his 49th birthday, we could go back to April 5th. And we're actually going to see, if we go over to the following date, 25 weeks apart, 25 code again. Another thing to consider, especially because if you look at Satoshi's birthday, 96th day of the year, and September 26th is the 96 days left in the year, as above, so below. The mirrors, 270 days left in the year, 270th day of the year, and that 27 ties back to Jupiter. I was kind of talking about it a moment ago. 27. So in the rules of numerology, you remove the 0, 27. And this is a Thursday, day of Jupiter. Bitcoin is Jupiter. So when we look at the Bitcoin chart for last year, because we're talking about the 25th and 26th of September. Let me see. Boom. Right here. This was the 25th and the 26th, right around that full moon. Leaving that full moon, that was a micro pivot leading to the annular solar eclipse on October 14th, which synchronizes with our annular solar eclipse this year in October as well. And well, we see what the crypto market did after that. Because if we zoom out from eclipse to this eclipse, that was the most bullish time frame of our current solar cycle. So keep that in mind. We are about to potentially be moving into that same exact style of breakout. It's not possible to say it will be exactly the same because here it didn't really feel so parabolic like the way that a typical bull cycle ends. This led us to a pretty arduous and sideways consolidation range, which we're still in. So I don't know if it's going to go exactly like this. I think the style that it breaks out will be the same, but I think the way it dumps will be much more dramatic and quicker, like similar to a blow off top. But I'll be talking about that more in future podcasts because we're not there yet. And I don't want anyone to get scared by what I just said because it has to be in context to so many other things. But getting back on the rails here, we have October 2020. Which was right here. And you see the way that Bitcoin behaved after that October too. We have October of last year, October of 2020 before kicking off that last bull run. And then we also have over here, when we look at the historic data for Bitcoin, about a 30% move on average for October and about a 40% move for November. So if we just had half of the performance of October, considering it's 30%, we put 15%, and we were to look at where we are today, assuming we just closed off the month right where we are. I mean, I'll bring it down a little lower. I'll bring it down to 62. And we were to put 15% on, that would be bringing us to right around 72K, to the key level of 71.5, which I've been talking about for a while now. You can see it marked right here. So then if we were to put on the half of the move of November on top of that, 71.5 or 72K, putting us at around 86, 87K. And that's pretty important because when I check in with this chart over here, let me see, I believe I have it saved. You'd see this 1618 in the linear fib pole is right around 89K. And that 89 is a key number for this year because 89 is the 24th prime number, esoterically the key number of our year. Also, Satoshi Nakamoto, by the code, it's going to be an 89, as you can see right here. Also, 181, it's the 42nd prime. The mirror of 42 is 24. 89 is the 24th prime. The mirror of 42. You see how this is working? This is why this was such an important year for Bitcoin. This is why I believe the Bitcoin ETF was launched this year, etc. So, one thing that's interesting is if Bitcoin repeated the normal move of 40% in November from around this 72K region, that'd be putting us right around a 100K Bitcoin. As you can see here, 101. And looking back at October of last year, I'm going to put on the monthly candles and I'm just going to show you. Last October, we did a 28% move. And if we look at the historic data, we did a 29% move in historic data. What's really amazing about this is October, November, December is not considered for this chart right here because the data ended. I know you can't see it because it's cut off at the bottom, but the data stopped after April 2023. So it's amazing that in October 2023, we actually had almost the same exact level or growth, I should say, on average October months. If we were to combine what we did, it would be around 80%. And let me see about last year specifically, from October to November, put on about 40% just between those 2 months. If we were to repeat such, it'd be bringing us into December around 89K, which is literally what I just said before. But the difference is where we are based in the solar cycle. We're a little bit deeper into it, and we would be after the October solar eclipse. So we have a little bit more bullish power on our side for a little bit more upside. Although I want to show you how from 88, 89K, if I was to go up to 100K, that would be just a little bit under 13%. We'll call it 12%. And then when we look at the historic data for the month of December, we put on 12%. And remember, I told you December would not be included in this data for 2023. So let's just look at what December 2023 was like. So I'm hovering over right here. I want you to look at what it says in brackets. It says 12.03%. So again, this data is insanely accurate. It doesn't even include these final months here, but it was the same October and the same December, what we did just last year. So for those wondering, I could absolutely see 100K Bitcoin before the end of this year, just based off the average percentage moves. If we were to take where we are right now up to 100K, that would be a move of 58, 59%. Funny enough, the number 59 comes back to Dragon. Be an interesting way to end off the Dragon year, but just to consider, it would be only 60%, and we know Bitcoin can do this in a single candle. You know, it's done it before. I mean, there's probably a couple examples of Bitcoin having a 60% monthly candle. Right here, you have a 42% followed by a 47%. Over here, you had a 36 in just a couple months. Over here, this is a 62% candle. Over here's a 54, 48. Here's a 65. Over here is a 70% candle. Bitcoin can do this easily. But you know, we're in a very precarious time right now. So I'm not getting confident until I see price discovery. We need Bitcoin to break above that 71,500 level to get confident. Also, I would assume that's coupled by Bitcoin dominance breaking out somewhere into 60%, and then we'll see where things go. But because I brought up the concept of 100K Bitcoin, which I know is a controversial conversation, just looking at how this data has been pretty damn accurate this year so far. When we go over to the Pi Cycle top indicator, I want to show you where we're at. Oh, let me show you. I'll have to reload this page. It's just, they need to update this website. I'm not sure who coded it, no offense, but they kind of screwed up. If you click anywhere on it, it just completely distorts everything. But you can see where I'm hovering right now. It's a Saturday, September 21. And it shows you the 350 DMA X2. So that's the 350-day moving average multiplied by 2. And that gives you 108K, just a little bit over 100K. It's getting closer to 110K every day, especially as we film today's podcast. And we reclaimed this same exact level of the 350-day moving average by times 2 back in December of 2020. So it would be pretty interesting if we were to reclaim that, especially because if you look at the timing of this, it was right there on December 15th, and that was exactly around the final solar eclipse of the solar cycle. And we reclaimed this key moving average. So I don't think Bitcoin can make it up that high in just a couple of weeks. That would be pretty face melting. But I'm just saying that it is synchronized with an eclipse. So we have the October 17th eclipse. It'll be the final eclipse of this year. And then no more eclipses until March of 2025. This gives us like 130 or so days from now, about 6 months. But it's really the time frame that we want to look at after October 2nd. I mean, it's so close. It's kind of negligible at this point, but let me just show you for the sake of it. Okay, yeah, exactly, 160 days. So we have this time frame, and I would even back it up, because we don't typically make it all the way to that final lunar eclipse and are still bullish. But don't worry, I know this might be a little confusing for you guys. I will be covering this again next week, getting a little bit more into the solar and lunar cycle theory. And for anyone out there that wants a very thorough breakdown on exactly what that is, with visuals like charts included, that's going to be in my crypto decoding blueprint. I cover everything there. It's one of the most valuable things I have, and it's the most affordable thing available on my website. So appreciate your support if you pick that up, and it's going to be a return on investment for sure. I mean, it's super powerful information in there. So now's the perfect time to get over into Bitcoin, since we did start talking about some prices. We did bring a couple things up, and it's important to actually look at the charts and see everything for what it is as we stand right now. So I'm going to go on the daily chart, hide the drawings. Here we are. We're about 63K. When I zoom out, you can see that we have been battling this horizontal trading range between 55, 54K and 73, 74K. Let's call it 72K for a long time. It's been 6 months, and we're right back up from where we were back a month ago. But what I want to revisit is last week in the red pill, I mentioned the moving averages. So let's pull those up. And I brought up this white moving average and this yellow moving average. I also gave you guys a text update just following the red pill podcast. And I said I would like to see this 8 simple moving average crossing above this 55 simple moving average. And that's what we got. So it's great to see that cross. But another thing that I mentioned was that I would like to see Bitcoin getting back above the 200 simple moving average. And that's yet to be accomplished. And in fact, it could potentially be a resistance as of right now on this key moving average over the past 3 to 4 days, which is not the best sign. But perhaps moving into this upcoming solar eclipse, we can reclaim that crucial level and ideally break above this This kind of key level back here of 64, 65K, which is something I've been bringing up quite a bit lately. It's a little cleaner to see in this chart. I have this red dotted line, but that is very much in alignment with the 200 simple moving average. So this is something to bring up. It's no parties yet. We really want to close a weekly above 65K. So since we're bringing up the weekly, let's look at where we're at. Bitcoin's still lower highs, lower lows. It's still the case this week as well, although we did get back above this 8 simple moving average, so that's looking pretty good. Let's look at the EMAs, and we're back above all of our key EMAs, so this is better. All right, good retest of the 34 weekly exponential, and now we are pretty much seeing the 8 start to balance out. I mean, I would really like to see this break of the 65. At this time, now that I'm looking at this, I don't care as much about the moving average. We need to break 65 and we need to start heading back to 70 fast. It's just this bull flag is getting a little bit arduous. It's a little bit overplayed. And where are we at on RSI? Okay, so things are looking pretty solid. We're back above 50 on the weekly RSI. It's more in bullish posture. And then even more important, we have the 2-week candle closing later today. This is pretty big. And you can see where we're trading at right now is right there at the 8 simple moving average. I would like us to get above that. I don't think we have the juice to be able to get above 64,500. That would be a push of about 3% into our daily close, unless CME opens, the Dow opens, and things are immediately bullish. That'd be tough. Be tough to go ahead and assume that's a possibility. But all in all, like, I mean, we're holding, very much holding. I would not signal any alarm bells until we started concretely closing below the 34 EMA on the bi-weekly. So this is looking pretty good. Look at the monthly. Actually, a pretty decent September. Very similar to last September, but looking pretty good. I do not like how we're below the 8 simple moving average on the monthly. Getting back above that would be crucial. I really believe that Bitcoin should be closing 65K on the monthly, especially because the posture of our monthly close is so close to the new moon or the eclipse. That would make a lot of sense. And you would see right here, this clean level of 64,700, 65K. That would be pushing us into an area where now it feels like we've bottomed out, especially with this larger wick to the downside and all this buying pressure that got it back up slightly below 60K. A big wick to the downside is nice to see, actually. It's better than a big wick to the upside, because if you were to see a big wick, we call this a tail if you want to be specific, but when we have a big wick to the upside, that's a lot of selling pressure, but this would be the opposite. Not that bad. Although, yeah, we did need to have a deeper red month somewhere in summer. That's a very normal repeating pattern. We could see it back in last August too. It happened this August. It's nothing different in the matrix. What we're looking for, though, is that October breakout candle. We're approaching October. We got an eclipse in the month of October 2023 with that breakout candle. We have an eclipse coming up in this October 2024. So could that be the one? It's likely. Let's get back to the daily, though. We can see with all these moving averages considered, we had the 8 get above the 55, and now also the 13, 21, 34 are also above the 55. This is a nice bullish posture, but we need to get above the 200 simple moving average. So I'm going to keep my analysis at that until we break above that and start treating it as a support instead of right now we're kind of treating it as a resistance. We're not out of the woods just yet. A break above the 200 with holding support and concretely breaking above the August highs with like a 3-day or 5-day candle closure, that would look really good. Let's look at when the next 5-day closes. Oh shit. Okay, the 5-day closed last night, and that's a really good close. Ooh, okay. Let me turn off the moving averages and you'll see why. Look at this 5-day close we just had. We got above everything from August. This could be a W. Okay, one second. It's very good. Okay, I already have my line there. Gorgeous. That brings us back to 74. So that would not be weird for October to have that month to that monthly push to 72, like I mentioned. Because that's only 14%. That's half of what we usually do in the month of October. If we were to do 30% in October, even if we came down, yeah, that'd be in price discovery. Yeah, that'd be about 80K. All right. Not trying to get anyone any hopes up here, but that was a really good candle closure. So I'm glad that I looked into the 5-day. It's not as common to look into it, but there's a reason why, and you see. So we're not looking so bad now. It's pretty good. Although, of course, we want to get back in the golden pocket. The golden pocket's somewhere about 64.5. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times, so I should move on now. 64,500 is important for Bitcoin. We need to get back above that. We need to break these August highs. Getting back in the golden pocket and then effectively breaking above 70, we will have completed 2 lower highs in regards to reclaiming those prior lower highs, and that's a trend reversal. So that's really it. I mean, it's close. It's very close. It's very close. 4%, 11, 12%. It's pretty much in alignment. It's great to see. All right. It feels like we're pretty much at the tail end. Looking at the Saturn retrograde chart, we're about at the time in Saturn retrograde where things start to release. We're more than halfway through, I believe. And we have Saturn retrograde ending by November 14th. And then we have a Mercury retrograde coming up on... No, where the hell is this at? Wrong chart. Mercury retrograde coming up in November. Okay, yeah. So that's really a bullish time frame in my opinion. Saturn retrograde's over. Mercury retrograde, the last one of the year, between the 25th of November and the 15th of December. Remember, in December, we have 2 new moons. It's a black moon. That should be a parabolic stage for Bitcoin, specifically, this moment right here. Funny enough, it's around Thanksgiving, which was the same shit that happened in 2020. We had Thanksgiving over here, this kind of fake out dump, and then right after it just went up for, 120 days or something like that. Yeah, look, 120 days. All right. ETH, what can we say? I mean, really just recovering back into the golden pocket, which I guess is nice. But yeah, this was where Bitcoin ETF was approved. This is where like ETH ETF was approved, I believe. It was in July, right? And then just a slide of slides. So not the most positive situation here. I find it funny too how like ETH and gold are like pretty similar prices. It's strange. Of course, completely different things, but it's just interesting with the prices. But I do like this trend line support that I drew out in a recent red pill. It's pretty clean. Buying climax, selling climax, attempt at, I guess you'd call this your automatic rally. And then we've started our LPSs and SOSs after that. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's a Wyckoff method. I teach Wyckoff method in my crypto mastermind course as well as my advanced trading course. So we're looking at higher lows and higher highs, and this is a clear trend reversal, but the fact that we got rejected at the 888 is not amazing, especially with this psychological level of $4,000. But the retest has seemed to be within the same amount of days as past retests. Like you see, this is about 330 days or so. 330 days. And this was about 330 days. So the time of returning back here. And then after that, we took another leg up, even though we did come and back test this territory. With ETH, we need to get back above 4,000. Anything below the golden pocket doesn't look so nice, and the only thing that's keeping this hopeful is the fact that we have this major support trend line going all the way back to 2022. Let's hope it holds. Ideally it should, especially regarding where Bitcoin's at, but still everything requires Bitcoin price discovery to have this sought after alt season. Everyone wants the alt season, right? Looking at XRP, yeah, this is really getting old now. Where are we at? Okay, let me get back to this chart. Smack dab in the middle. It couldn't be any more sideways. Seriously. Got my Yeah, we're right there at the heart line. All right, so we are not really able to share any more information. This is the same. This is the same thing that we've been dealing with since July. So yeah, XRP I can't really share too much more on because of where it's postured at. Until we have Bitcoin price discovery and a little bit more recovery energy in the crypto market as a whole, there's not much of an update. I mean, ideally, what would be great is if Bitcoin could catch up to what the S&P and the Dow are doing. If that was the case, then yeah, we would see expansion across the board, especially with what's going on in the Russell right now. So an incredibly bullish weekly close for the S&P. Mamma mia. Dow as well. Look at this shit. We're at all-time highs. 42,000 points on the Dow. Crazy. Even though there's like 6 companies that are making that happen. But the Russell's pretty much back to prior July highs. A little bit sketchy right now, but this is reapproaching the 2021 peak. And this is kind of where you would anticipate to see some bigger moves if we could catch up and we could break this peak of 2,400, which is funny, right? 2,400. We have 4,002 or 42,000 on the Dow. This 24 and 42 number is pretty fascinating this year. We talked about it with gold. When gold hit $2,400 an ounce, it immediately had a correction. And then it chopped and chopped and chopped until its recent breakout. And perhaps I'll cover gold in next week's podcast. But let's get into these altcoins. We have IOTEX. I'm not sure if I've covered this before. If I have, it must have been a while ago. Nice. We have a ton of data to work with. This is great to see. We have data going back to 2018. So it didn't really get to, at least not based in this chart, it didn't get to have that 2017 alt season. That ended in January 2018, but it did have the C19 crash and it got pretty choppy over here. But if you look at where from the C19 crash to the bottom of the selling climax of August 2023, it's about a 440% move higher, which is great. And then as of where we're at today, it's 1,500%. So there's some examples that are really poor compared to what we're looking at right now. This is actually nice to see. And some people might be asking, why are you bringing this up? Well, in my opinion, if you can make it through the C19 crash and be up to where we are today on this, then, well, you were a good investment. Because if you bought when there was blood in the streets and now you're up 1,500%, then congratulations. On the other hand, we have projects that have not been able to do this. Look at Algorand. This is the C19 crash. If you bought the absolute bottom, you would be even right now. Whilst the chart I was just looking at a moment ago was up 1,500%. If you bought Bitcoin during the C19 crash, the largest market cap project, even if you bought high at 6,000, halfway up after a 40-50% recovery to where we are today, you would be up almost 1,000%. So what was the better investment long term, right? And I mean, I'm not trying to shit on Algorand right now, or the example that I brought up. I'm just being a real one. That's not a positive looking example of an investment. Now I do hold a little bit of that, but it's just for long term stuff, and it's a venture capital play. It's only 1.5 to 2% of my overall portfolio. So I would not put too much and gamble too much in something that has a bad chart, which that example is a very good example of a bad chart. This, on the other hand, well, it's up 1,500 to 1,700% from one of the worst crashes in history, especially for altcoins. So that's nice to see. Now, looking at the bottom of the bear market that we just experienced to where we are today, about 200% up. Very nice. Since it's had a 70% mid-cycle correction, which is pretty normal, and that's kind of what we anticipate. We could see over here, this was probably the same song, 60% mid-cycle correction before it went into another leg higher, price discovery phase. Funny enough, that price discovery phase kicked off in January 2021. That would kind of be when I would anticipate some crazy parabolic moves in the alt market, given Bitcoin does what we're anticipating it should do. But look, it's a very choppy journey to the top, guys, because after it went up 1,000%, it had I can't count this crazy wick, but I could at least go from here. It had an 80% correction followed by another move of 2,500% or 2,000%. Nobody would be able to hold through this. It's just too much fucking volatility. You know, you have a 60% correction after one of the most devastating market crashes in history. Then you go up 1,000%, followed by another 80% correction. Then you go up 2,000% to have a blow off top. Like, madness. That's why altcoins are all about strategy. You need to know when enough is enough. It's a little too greedy in here. Pull out. But let's get into some traditional TA now that we got that out of the way. I always like to start off with the first project, kind of sharing as much as possible on a fresh chart. We have a very clean move here. I'm just pulling a traditional fib from this swing high to this swing low. We had a sharp move to the bottom of the golden pocket, the 618, clean rejection off of it, and then coming back to almost the 236. I like to see that. Let me see if I was to adjust this to, yeah, I'm going to leave it here because it's enough data. It's data that goes back to 2021 and we're almost in 2025. So good to see that we almost made it back to the 236, but yeah, it's kind of getting to the point where enough is enough. This should be breaking out soon, and it's pretty clean here. We have some sort of resistance, lower highs, peaks, 1, 2, 3. That should be enough. Multiple drives to the downside, that should be enough, and we'll see if this is enough to facilitate a trend reversal at this time. And one thing we could do is we can go to an area chart, go to like a weekly, and we'll look at it from that perspective. Yeah, it's probably a little bit better to look at everything from the weekly, and you can see this touch point was a clear fake out. Something there though. Let's look at the 3-day, adjust slightly. We got some more touch points. That's even cleaner. I like that. Okay. Macro's better, and the reason I'm looking at it like this, and this is another lesson for you guys if you've never seen something like this before, I'm changing the candles and I'm putting it in area so I know the closures. So these are all 3-day closes. You have your first peak, lower high, lower high, lower high, and then now you have a bottoming structure, high, higher low, I guess, and then a break. And then it also couples with that 382 fib, which is crucial. Now, what was I teaching you with Bitcoin? We want to get above the prior high. So whatever happened in July, we want this coin to get above 5 cents. Once it could start closing 3-day candles above 5 cents, that would be, in my opinion, it's on its way to a trend or reversal out of this micro kind of analysis, and we should be heading back to the golden pocket and finally break into it. If I go back to candles, you kind of see the story here. Now let's look at where we're at compared to prior all-time highs. I'm not going to do this on every project, by the way. I'm just showing you as much as I can on this, and we kind of copy and paste as we go along. So this is about a 600% move back to prior all-time highs, and pretty much thin air after the 702. There's not too many days you traded above the 12-cent level. You can see that was a clean resistance. So I would keep my eye out. If you're invested in this project, I would keep my eye out for 11 cents right here. This is a messed up level because you had one peak followed by a really large correction here. You know, 60%. Then after you got above it, it didn't last too long. Temporarily held as a support for maybe 1 calendar month, and then it got rejected off this level, gravitated back to it, rejected again. 3 times the charm, get the fuck out. So this is a very important level, and we couldn't even make it back up there on the automatic rally phase. So 11 cents is big, meaning if we could get back above 11 cents on this, that's potential price discovery in the making. Now, I'm not sure where the ultimate high price on this can go. I don't believe that $2 is possible. I'm sorry. 50 cents, I do. 50 cents to $1.10 max. $1.10, yes, something like that makes a lot of sense to me. That would be where I would adjust my fibs in that case for finding these more exaggerated price targets. I don't think in this bull run we're going to be seeing things make it up to like the 6, 8, 9, 10 spot extension. I think like on a linear pull, we'd probably make it up to the 1618s in a lot of cases. And if a miracle happens, sure, you can get the 1618 on the log pull. But it's not likely. I would not bet on that. I don't like saying stuff like this because then people are like, Waters told me that this is going to... And it's like, no, I never said that. I was very cautious anytime I even entertained such a thing. And I was just very clear. I do not see 6, 7, 8 spot extension moves. which, you know, in this case would be above $1.70. So that $2 one that was on the 161A and the log pull, unlikely. I just don't see it. I don't see it unless a fuck ton of money floods into the market from I don't know where. Like, I'm not sure where. It's not going to be institutions. Institutions don't give a shit about what I'm looking at right now. They barely give a shit about ETH. They got, like, you know, clammy hands after just a couple months with an ETH ETF. But yeah, no offense to this project or anything. I just gave it a lot of positive words compared to some other things. So yeah, I mean, looking pretty good. It looks like it's on the process of a potential trend reversal as we speak, breaking out of this falling resistance. It's just you need to consider trend, and that would be a break above these highs of July. Let's go over to a cash network. All right, cool. So, ooh, I don't like this. No, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. We're looking at a cash network. This parallel channel here was in play until it got back to the prior all-time highs, and then it fell pretty deep, which is like that double top vibe. I don't like that. And an M pattern right there, bearish. Oh yeah. And this barely wants to stay at these levels anyways, because when you look at the past, it's like, it's just parabolic and very pumpy dumpy above $2.80, pretty much where we're back right now. And one other thing I don't like is when it recovered that key level of 280, you see how it spiked to the prior all-time high, came down back to around the same level, got rejected for a second time. That M pattern that I brought up, we came right back to the level we're at now. And then this other leg lower, we're starting to now flip a resistance into potential, or sorry, flip a support into a potential resistance. 1, 2, 3 touch points. I don't like it. I mean, yeah. It already did a crazy fucking move. Look, 2,000, almost 3,000% from the bottom of the bear market to just March this year. That's kind of giving me a weird vibe. It's giving me a weird vibe when I look at some of these altcoins that are topping in March 2024, because that's like how the 2021 run went. You see, like March into April 2021. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's like very coincidence kind of vibe. But I guess, you know, excuse me, at the end of the day, we need price discovery to really call it like a new bull run cycle. Otherwise, that's why I initially had that like stomach knee-jerk reaction with this double top situation here and breaking out of this parallel channel for a pretty prolonged amount of time. You know, it's like every time we get out of this parallel channel in this project, it seems to be a good time to buy. But this case, in this situation, it wasn't the case. It's now been going on for, let's see, you know, over 100 days. So heading into month 4. Now, you know, the positive thing to say here is that if we were to get into more recovery mode, sure, $20 is possible on this. To be about 700, 800% move from here. So still a bit of upside if we can get released from this stranglehold that we've all been dealing with. Yeah, and that brings you almost up to the 4236. So a move to 9 would be great. If you could break above $10, I believe this will go to 25. So yeah, there's a move ahead, and I clearly have covered this in the past because I have a couple of indicators, or I have a couple of things already drawn out. Okay, cool. Yeah, like this is like some, I guess I could zoom in a little bit more and I could see where we're at. Like, are we resetting RSI? Sure. It's like on the weekly. Let's get it back above 50 on the weekly. That could be potentially in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. More in a bullish posture, breaking this resistance level over here, forming back at the time we broke out of the parallel channel. That would be positive. So yeah, getting back to like 51 in the weekly RSI would be good. This bi-weekly is actually looking like a reversal too, because you'd be getting back above the prior green candle. Really, I would want to see this broken though, 350. So keep that in mind on a cash network. Above 350, this would start looking a little less weird. But until then, bi-weekly's under 350. It's just kind of chopping. I suppose if you're somebody who wants a venture capital position, this could be an opportunity. Although you're kind of buying something that's trading near prior all-time highs. So, like, it was better to buy Bitcoin back when it was below 30K than it is to buy it at 60K, obviously. And then once we made it back to 60K, you saw the chop start. So it's the same situation with this project too. Even though it's a way more volatile, way less proof in the results. Like Bitcoin's been trading since what, 2010, 2009 at like a fraction of a penny. So yeah, it has a lot of chart history to bank on. Interesting chart though. Going to be going over to Binance. It's been a minute, probably a quick update on Binance token. All right, very similar situation to what Bitcoin is dealing with, getting around this 888 fib, which has been a mother for this project. Geez, look at this, guys. From March all the way to now, almost 200 days. This 888 fib is smacking Binance coin down every time it gets there. So what does that mean? In plain English, getting above it would be very bullish. But yeah, this thing made a new all-time high for like a minute. And there's that clear psychological level of $700. So we're so damn close already. It's like, and I wouldn't personally be investing in this project. I'm not too interested in Binance anymore. It's too sketchy. I'm not against it. I believe it's probably still the #1 exchange in the world regarding the amount of liquidity available on it. But with all the shit going on with CZ, and yeah, it's just, I don't think this bull run that we're in right now is going to be an influencer bull run. The last one was, with like BitBoy and all these guys, and Sam Bankman-Fried, and even Elon. Elon people cared about so much, and like now we don't have that on our side. We're in like a weirder time where I think the institutions are now the conversation, and that's gonna be just shifting. And also, Sam Bankman-Fried went to jail. We had scandal with CZ. He went to jail. Like, there's a lot of post 2021 scar tissue. But yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of this particular project. So I'm not a big fan of Binance either. It's why I've never invested in it. But, decent bear market. It did not lose as much as a lot of other things, and now it's recovered back to pretty much within all-time highs. So if you bought it in the last cycle, geez, man, incredible move from March C19 crash to where we are today. I just didn't get any of the opportunities that I was looking for as an investment on this project in the last cycle comparatively to other things. So yeah, I mean, it's about 170% up from the absolute bottom. And I believe Bitcoin's pretty much outperformed that too. So it's fine, I suppose. I'm not trying to be bearish or FUD anyone out of BNB. I gave you the level to consider right now. We're clearly having a struggle at around this $600 range. And we haven't traded too much time above 600. So a break of 700 would be price discovery. And then the $1,500, $1,600 move would not be shocking. Again, that's only about 150 to 200% from here. So I don't really see the huge opportunity in Binance as like in regards to investing in BNB. So I'll move on. Let me go to Shiba Inu. You guys really wanted me to check that out this week. Okay. Oh, great. So a couple things. We have a fib pulled from the swing high down to the swing low. We have effectively back tested the 236. I like to see that. The full mid-cycle correction now has been 75%, very typical. The one danger thing is this box. I had this box drawn out because that was where I was anticipating this to come back to. At minimum, come back to the 382. This is what I teach. And you can see now we're getting kind of like a resistance on this range and lower highs. So ideally, until we could break above this level right here, which is the same story for a lot of things, yeah, this is kind of in the lower end. But one positive thing to say about it is, 500% back to prior all-time highs. And we know when this thing gets bullish, it gets bullish. It's a meme coin. It is what it is. We're not out of meme world just yet. I really do hope, though, that this is the last cycle we have to deal with this nonsense. But that's just my bitterness, I suppose. But I do feel that Doge is probably going to have a nice run up after Bitcoin's price discovery. It's very typical. Dogecoin has always gotten to the 1618 of every cycle. Even in the last cycle, it actually hyperextended above that. And I think SHIB will follow naturally. But I do think the year of the snake will have that, will be the play. for these altcoins. So I'm still sticking to that analysis. And, I mean, it did have an incredible move from the bear market to this right here, about 500%. It's pretty solid. It's way more outperforming what you had happen in the stock market in most cases, but it's an altcoin. So you have to play in and out. You have to know how to manage to deal with this type of stuff, because look at this. This was a straight line breakout straight to the 702 fib. This is not a level to play around with. And that's exactly where it keeled over. Again, couldn't break these significant levels from when this started to break down into the bear market. So horizontal trading ranges are everything. I think they're crucial, very much overlooked. Also with fibs, very much overlooked, even though a lot of analysts talk about them and utilize them. When it comes to some of these altcoins, you have to be a little bit more open-minded. One second. Excuse me, you have to be a little bit more open-minded to how you utilize these fibs. And what I teach is, after getting to the golden pocket, you return back to the 382. And what happens is, a lot of people, they make a mistake. When you get back into the golden pocket, people think, oh shit, we're recovering, we're going to go into a bull run now. But that's very rare. It did happen in a couple projects. I think it happened in Singularity Net. We just looked at an example a couple of minutes ago with the Kosh network, but it's not the most common scenario. What you're looking at now, is the most common. Breakout above the 0.5 into the golden pocket, maybe the bottom, or the 702. In some cases, I hyperextend a little into the 786. Rejection, come back to the 382. That's the way this works. I would say 90% of the time. So of course there's outliers, but this is more the case. So I like to see actually that SHIB came to the 382, and I also really like to see that it came and back tested the 236 with a very impulsive buyback. That's a nice thing to see. Now we just got to clear the 382 and start holding it as a support instead of being below it, seemingly treating it as a resistance. But I think that's just going to be in harmony with what we call an alt season. So this is a more in a buy accumulation vibe than it would be like buying things that are at the 888, like the Binance example. Binance to go to the 1618 would have been a 180% move. Well, SHIB right now getting back to even the 888 would be a 350% move. So you just have to think how you want to look at it, but the numbers are clear. We're going to be finishing off today's podcast with Digibyte. Oh my goodness, this thing's still at bottom. So yeah, speaking of something that's trading at a very clean support, and it's as low as it can get, Digibyte is a good example. And if you look at where the current all-time high is, that would be a 2,500% move. It's funny enough, because 2,500% seems to be what a lot of altcoins that I deal with are projected to do. And we have we're still kind of right there where the C19 crash happened with Digibyte. So let's see how how this goes. But it's at the bottom, and it hasn't even got above the 382. It gravitated to it pretty quickly, and then it got rejected and came all the way back down. So this is old news. Like I know some people have given me feedback and some criticism on some of my picks, such as VeChain and Theta and stuff, and that's fine. I'm open to the criticism. I know a lot of people want me to be like playing the meme coins and that kind of shit, but like you need to understand that I'm probably not the same as some of these like leverage traders that are working with small capital. Like over the years I've taken profits and reinvested it and tried becoming safer in general, and I'm still doing really well, profiting very well. So I don't want to play with fire. It's fun when you get started, but after you kind of develop more and become more sophisticated as an investor, and you want to get off of the screen and spend more time creating, and if maybe you're a creator like me that uses computers and stuff, great, just how you have a relationship with these devices. I don't want to be trading meme coins on the Solana blockchain all day. It's just boring to me. But if that's something you're into and passionate about, then do it. Just not my thing. So with that being said, Digibyte is really old news. Not nearly like something like Theta, which had an insane cycle in the last bull run. And it also has had a nice recovery recently. It's holding its horizontal structure in the macro. It's not looking that bad. But this was like all the way back in 2013? Yeah, this project goes way back. And you can see that it's done amazing when you look at it compared to 2014 to 2017. But since it's not really done that amazing. From 2017 all the way to today, it's been choppy and sideways, which I suppose is kind of similar to XRP. So we'll have to see with XRP potentially breaking into price discovery, maybe something like Digibyte can ride the wave of that, but I would be hard pressed to even entertaining a new all-time high for Digibyte. That's not to discourage people. It's just it doesn't look like there's any energy behind this anymore. It doesn't really seem to be like anyone cares, and that's just the fluctuation of how things rotate over time, you know? Look at what happened with Monero in the last cycle. It never broke out into price discovery, but I remember before that cycle, everyone was very, very, very bullish and optimistic on privacy coins. I mean, when we check back in with like things like Darrow and Pirate Chain, you know, they're not nearly in the conversation as they once were. So we're shifting, things are changing, and you have to adapt over time. Be adaptable. You know, those are the words of wisdom I'll leave you off with here at the end of today's Red Pill podcast of 182. So I hope you all enjoyed today's podcast. We're looking pretty good with Bitcoin. Got about 63,000, excuse me. And it would be great if we can get bought back up above 65K. I don't know if that could happen in these last couple hours, but we'll see. Maybe a miracle occurs. But all in all, ending the month of September, which we have 7-8 more days left above this level right here of the August highs, we'll call it 64,500. That would be amazing. We have enough time to do that. It's only a couple percent from where we are now. So we'll see how things go. I will be sending you guys a midweek update if needed. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.